We have one big goal for today in this panel, which is to share meaningful philanthropic work that has happened in Sheboygan County with a special focus on sustainable partnership. And the reason why we have asked each of these individuals to join us today is they individually, as well as the organizations that they represent, have invested in incredibly meaningful ways for generations. And specifically in some really special ways in the past 2 years. And so we're kind of gonna time capsule that and look and celebrate at some of the really wonderful things that have happened and use that as inspiration stepping forward. So I'm gonna launch a couple questions that emerging leaders have prepared. I have one simple question to ask you guys, just about you personally. If you have a favorite way that you personally have volunteered in the past, a consistent way you love to volunteer.
First moved to Sheboygan, I was a volunteer with Meals on Wheels. And so I remember, this is back when it was at Watson's Vending, and I remember pulling into that parking lot to pick up my meal for the first time and just amazed at all of the people that were there to help serve, and that it happened every day, that all of these volunteers would come to pick up meals, to deliver them throughout Sheboygan County. It floored me when I went the very first time. And as my children were growing older, I would bring them with me to serve and deliver Meals on Wheels. And that was just a really amazing experience too, and got me out into the community and seeing parts of Sheboygan County that I would have otherwise not seen. So for me, being a part of Meals on Wheels was really impactful for me and for my family.
For me, I volunteer, we were talking about this earlier, I volunteer at St. Nicholas Hospital as a Eucharistic minister. And so each week, every Monday, I go to all the patients that wish to have communion and give them communion. And it's an amazing ministry. You see people oftentimes at their worst. And they want someone to listen to. They're lonely, and they're in need, and they're scared, and you're there.
I go back to the serving a meal to somebody who maybe is going to go without it. To me, is just because it's so basic. It's just at such a fundamental level, and handing the individual a tray, or scooping, some mashed potatoes on a plate for them, has just been, oftentimes it's just so eye-opening, because you're seeing it kind of right there. And my children have had the opportunity to kind of do that as well. And I just, I think that's probably the most memorable, but then that kind of spins into the work that I've done in working with Patrick at the Sheboygan County Food Bank to see, where that organization has come has been really kind of neat.
Where did your mind go when you first heard about COVID-19? Did you have any inkling on not just the community impact, but the worldwide impact on your employees, the community as a whole? Like, where did your mind go when
COVID? I still kind of look back to those early months, and when you saw businesses completely shut down, restaurants completely shut down, it was really sad, because you could see the impact that this was having, and this was at no fault of their own. This was just something that was just thrown onto them. And so that was really hard, but was also kind of refreshing and kind of made you feel good about living in Sheboygan County. Is this community rallied in such a huge way. Companies, individuals, helping businesses that were in a bad spot, kind of help get them through this. Everybody started, restaurant industry, everybody started to do takeout. I mean, the number of takeout orders that my wife and my family did during that time, far and exceeded how often we go out to dinner. But it was the right thing to do, because we wanted to do our part of helping people through that. So I think, COVID is a challenge. It still is a challenge, quite frankly. I think this area, these companies, our community, I think has done a really good job kind of managing through it. And I think, from you as emerging leaders, kind of learning and hearing about Sheboygan County, you should be very proud to be in this community, because it is a very, very giving community.
Mm-hmm.
We had some thought leaders within this community that stepped forward very early. And I look at what the United Way staff had done. March 16th, they started the fund. Think about the timing. I mean, that was only 2 weeks into this craziness. They put together a fund because they saw the need, and they're a good thought leadership type of community thinkers. And they raised over $285,000 in just a very short period of time and got that money into the community very quickly. And so, I just keep applauding that.
Yes.
And that effort was very instrumental.
But how do you make this personal passion something that's actually part of your organization in a meaningful way, more than just the corporate social responsibility, the CSR? How do we actually make it a part of things that we love?
We try to find ways to connect them with the purpose of our company, but we also look to our associates to tell us what's important to them and how we can support their passions. A really interesting program that we have at Kohler is Innovation for Good, and that's where we invite associates to brainstorm solutions to some of the larger global problems that are out there. So for instance, last year was all around clean water and sanitation. And so groups of associates, whether you're an engineer or not, teams from any department could come together, propose business solutions. They presented them to leadership, and then teams were selected and given funding and time to work on those ideas. So that's just an example of a way that we try to harness the expertise and passion of our associates to connect with kind of the bigger purpose of our company.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about Harvest for the Hungry? I know this has been a tradition for many, many years, but I also like to hear about how you guys got really creative during 2020 as well to still make that tradition happen.
Yes. This provided a really unique opportunity. Leadership decided they wanted one signature event for hospitality that allowed associates to volunteer and to give back. Kind of coalesced around the infrastructure already being in place around food and wine, which happens in October. And so it all kind of came together that was the opportunity for associates to prepare and serve a meal and raise money for the United Way. So I think it is, since the beginning, it's raised over $120,000 and over 10,000 meals have been served. And in 2020, the pivot was to doing a drive-through event so that participants drove through the lower level of the American Club and meals were placed in people's trunks, and over 700 meals were served last year that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is incredible.
Kind of the education side. And that goes to our employees, the Sargento family, understanding kind of some of our core business philosophies that we hold, that my grandfather started. So I understood the importance of community because that's how I was raised. That's how I was brought up. And, my grandfather, when he started, he immediately needed the community in order to do what he wanted to do. So it was his way of immediately trying to start to give back as fast as he could. Just real quick, he had to ask the city of Plymouth to rent space in the basement of the Plymouth post office, to be packaging cheese in back in his early days. So if that is not kind of the community kind of coming together to kind of help a guy out, I don't know what is. But the community to this day remains a very key stakeholder. And so we do everything that we can to help inform and let our employees know the importance of what community is to our organization, but also to their livelihood. That's where they're living. That's where they're raising a family. That's where they're finding their balance in life. And without that strong community, you don't have that. It makes it hard to recruit people as a business. It makes it difficult to raise a family in the way that people want to raise their family. So giving back is just a piece of it, financially giving back, but providing people that opportunity to engage in a number of different nonprofit organizations in this area, I think is critically important because they become more entrenched in the community itself. So offering the opportunity for Day of Caring, offering the flexibility for people to use kind of their kind of free hours to coach basketball or to volunteer at the Salvation Army or to be a big, for Big Brothers Big Sisters. Those are all things that I think are important because it allows people to kind of find where their passion is. It helps people find that balance in life so that they're not just sitting at their desk all the time. And they, to what was also said, it also allows them to find, their sense of purpose at an individual level, but then also support, the purpose of the organization, what the organization expects of them.
Just think about the following. 22,000 therapy sessions were given to kids last year at school, having access to that. 74,000 meals being provided to the elderly and homebound last year. 26,000 nights of shelter was provided last year. That's 75 people a day. Think about it, do the math. But it's not even. The colder months, it's much. So think about hundreds each night. 5,000 families each month are provided emergency food. That's it's food, it's health, it's mental health, it's financial stability, it's education. That's what these guys do, and the staff are in touch and are very good thinkers about and sensors as to what the community needs.